This video has been nearly 2 months in the making, 6 weeks in the making at least. I recorded it on the 21st of March. It's now May 6th. I'm on my honeymoon, and I thought, no time like the present, and so I decided to go ahead and upload this, and I am excited to see everybody's participation in this conversation about what got them into books or reading or BookTube or whatever literature related things. I'm sure people will talk about movies, things like that as well, but I just want to get this out there and thank Carrie again for making this tag up, because it is the kind of like conduit for me finally making a BookTube video, and so YouTube video, whatever you want to call it. So thanks again to Carrie for creating this book tag, and I hope you guys enjoy, and yeah. Okay, this is being done because I've now been hyped up by my sister, and why not? Why the heck not? So I am doing this little video because one of my favorite YouTubers made a video, and I just feel the need to respond and put you guys on to some fun little things. And so this is the, like, where did your lore come from? Where my lore started. This is where my lore started, and we're gonna get into it. I'm not in my normal library area. My house, I live in the Houston area, and Beryl happened. Some of you might remember if you live in Texas or if you watch weather reports, I don't know. Some time ago was it July? There was a crazy storm in Houston. There were a series of storms, but Beryl is the one that took my house out. We had a tree literally land like just in my bedroom. It had to go through the upstairs floor to land in my bedroom, so it kind of went through the attic next to it went through the attic, it went to my kids' bathroom, and then straight down into my bedroom. And so we don't live there right now. We've been living in Airbnbs since August. We were, it's been a moment, but I've taken over this little space in our Airbnb, and I've made it into my makeshift book corner, cutesy vibe, whatever you want to call it. And I want to do the Where My Lore Started book tag that Carrie Can Read started. Today's Friday the 21st, and when I'm recording this, and she posted this last night, and so I just feel the need to respond. We can start with the actual questions. So what's the first book you remember reading by yourself? Me, the first book I read alone was The Secret Garden, and it was on, and I'll try to put like a little picture of it up there. I guess I'll have to edit something. The Secret Garden, and also A Little Princess. These were the starts of my little bit of lore. I actually bought this copy in London last year. But anywho, A Little Princess and The Secret Garden, I read them on my Leapfrog. I'm a 90s baby. I don't know if Leapfrog is still a thing, but I was born in 93, and Leapfrog was a thing, and so we would be on all of these car rides, my mom and my dad, and I'd have my little Leapfrog, and I would get car sick because I can't read in the car, but I would still have it. I started taking books everywhere I went from a very, very young age, and I am still the bag lady with a bunch of books no matter where I go, whether it's from like the top of my house to like the middle floor, or whether it's on a ride to pick somebody up. I must have a book or several books near me at all times, because like, who knows when the mood will strike, who knows when you'll suddenly feel the need to read something, and who knows what you'll be in the mood to read, right? And so for all of those reasons, yeah, I always have books with me, and it started out with books like this. Okay, so next question, what character did you most identify with in elementary school? I'm gonna have to cut some of this out. and I'm gonna be looking things up as I go along, because one thing that I struggle with a little bit is just like basic memory. So we're gonna go and find out who, I think her name is, hang on, there we go. I was mixing up Sarah Crew and Mary Lennox. So if you've read The Secret Garden or A Little Princess, the protagonist for The Secret Garden is Mary Lennox, and the protagonist for A Little Princess is Sarah Crew. And I wanted to say Sarah Crew so bad because the movie adaptation of both of these books is something that I also really clung to as a child. But the person who played Mary Lennox was my spirit animal. Sorry if you hear my dishwasher finishing up. Mary Lennox and Sarah Crew were my people. They were the people who I felt connected to, the people who I felt like I wanted to be, but also the people who I kind of felt like I was sometimes. I would also say Nancy Drew. I had a Nancy Drew moment. I remember those, like, you know, Nancy Drew, like the paperbacks are these little yellow editions with like blue writing. Am I getting that right? We read a lot of Nancy Drew, and that was a vibe for me. But yeah, I would say that those are the three people I identified with most. I can't pick one because I read them all like pretty voraciously and like all the time and pretty equally. So I should have reread these before recording this. But what was your elementary school comfort book? I feel like I'm gonna have the same, until we leave elementary school, I'm gonna have the same answer over and over and over and over and over again. I'm telling you right now, The Secret Garden and A Little Princess were my comfort books. I don't know, probably partially due to the fact that like I had an exposure to a different kind of media growing up. My parents were like the feature films for family, more into like classic lit, to like introspective kind of, not that all literature isn't introspective, but that was their focus. And so what that meant for me was I was reading a lot of children's classics, and I gravitated towards those simple things like the magic that you find in The Secret Garden, and like what makes The Secret Garden magical. Why is little boy suddenly able to walk? You know, like what brings two cousins who have nothing in common together and who were raised completely differently together. Like I was interested in relationships in my books, and so for me those are the books that I was going to gravitate towards. It just, I don't want to spoil anything, but nothing's really changed. I forgot to mention, okay, editing me has to put this at the front of the pile, because my comfort book in elementary school, after I got comfortable with reading A Little Princess, was The Summer of the Swans. And it's about this girl and her brother, and I think it might be that he's autistic, but he's got something going on. Like he's neurodivergent and he's struggling. He disappears and she has to go and find him. It's a whole situation, and I feel like this one did a lot for just representation, and I didn't know that that's what was happening. But when I was reading it, I checked this out from my library, and when I was reading it, I was like, what's wrong with this little boy? And not like what's wrong with him like in a crazy kind of way, but like, why can't he communicate? Because I didn't know that there were people out there at this age. I was reading this, probably I was 10. I didn't know that there were people out there who couldn't communicate, and in the way that I did. I knew that sign language was a thing because my little sisters learned sign language in their preschool, and I knew that people had like impediments and things like that, but I didn't know that there were things out there that didn't necessarily have a name I understood, a name that I could pronounce, a name, like I didn't know. And this told me so much about what I didn't know. Like The Summer of the Swans is, this is a book that I want to reread right now, like after I finish doing this thing and maybe a little bit of my day job. Like this is a book that I want to reread right this second. It won the John Newbery Medal for the most distinguished contribution to American literature for children. And it was just a very sweet book. And where or what was your safe space as a kid? The library. So I grew up in a little town in upstate New York. I'm saying upstate lightly. It was like an hour and a half outside of the city west. So I grew up in the tri-state area in the Hudson Valley, beautiful, picturesque, Hallmark movie looking town situation. That's where I grew up. When I look back on my childhood, I consider everything that I experienced as a kid, and in that town, and I can't help but idealize it because of the way that the seasons change, because of like the way that the leaves are falling, because of the way it's not super cold when you're outside and snowing. Like, you know how like the temperature kind of shifts a little bit when it snows and it doesn't quite feel so cold. It's a situation. But I definitely idealize my childhood. I know that there were things that were not perfect, obviously, like anybody else's. My safe space was the library. We went there often. We went there all the time. My library was an old train station. They changed it into a library, and it was old, and there was stone and stucco everywhere, and the children's section was on the second floor, and so we would walk up to this beautiful wooden spiral staircase to the second floor, and we would like kind of just get lost in books. And I would say that another kind of comfort read as I got into like end of elementary school-ish times were the books at the library, the series that my younger sister and I discovered. I've got 3 sisters, but the one right underneath me, her and I discovered the Charlie Bone series, which is kind of a similar vibe to Harry Potter. And that was like reading the Charlie Bone series, like in between, you know, the library shelves or whatever, like just sitting up against one and popping one of those open and reading those and trying to figure out what's going on with Charlie Bone, and like, does he have magic, and where'd he get his magic from, and like all of those kinds of things. Like that library was my safe space. I can remember my mom like using the computer. If we were gonna pop by the library, she may as well get some things done or check on some things while we were perusing. But like my parents would pull out books of their own and books on tape and all things like that. And yeah, I just remember the library being just a magical place, and the library is still such a magical place to me right now today. Like, I love it so much. How long have I been talking about the library? There's one more safe space. Can I answer multiple questions, like multiple times to these questions? Because I can't choose. This church that I used to go to as a kid, behind the church, it was a tiny, tiny church. And there was a parsonage, which is like the place where the pastor lives. And anyway, adjacent to the church was the church was surrounded by woods because it's upstate New York. And how do I explain this? We would build these little houses of sticks, like little teepee adjacent things, and we would bring blankets out and cover our little houses, and we would just sit under them and talk about, I don't even know what she was talking to me about, because she was like 2 years older than me and I was like 9 at that time. You know how that is. We were worlds apart, but we would just sit there and talk. And even if she wasn't there on a particular time that I would still go out there, and I would make our little makeshift house, and I would sit there, and you could hear everything. You could see deer and you could hear birds, and anyway, I digress. Okay, did you feel inspired to read by your school? And if yes, how did your upbringing encourage reading? Okay, so in school, I would say in elementary school, I wasn't super inspired to read. I read because my parents made me. At first, we went back and forth between homeschooling and being in school for just for multiple reasons. It's not like a weird like, it's not that situation. It was other things, like I don't know how to explain that. I feel like this is a reminder to myself to talk about my experience in teaching, and kind of like the difficulty of the education system. Like, there are places where it ends up so perfectly and so well, and then there are times where like you're not taught enough about history to understand it. And I think that there were times where my parents felt like it was necessary or beneficial to teach us themselves, and they had the flexibility, and so that's what they did. and also I begged to be homeschooled multiple times, just because I wasn't feeling the vibes out there. But anyway, yeah, so I was inspired to read. I'm not answering any of these. I was inspired to read by my parents. My parents were always reading, and so because they were always reading, that's what I was seeing. And so because that's what I was seeing, that's what I was doing. That, and we, we're big movie people, especially musicals. And so those were the things that we were encouraged to do, because those are the things we were watching the people do. Yeah. And also, like, my older sister, she's 4 years older than me, and watching her read, she was reading things that were far beyond me. She was reading like Uncle Tom's Cabin in middle school. I was like, go off. But not me. I didn't read certain kinds of literature until I was a little bit older, but I digress. I'm cutting this out. Okay, what book have you wanted to, oh, I will say I need to skip ahead to high school for a second, because I was really encouraged by my high school teacher. Her name was Jen something. I can't remember her last name, but this is not a her problem. She's very memorable. It's me. But I still have one of the one of the books. This is the first book she ever gave me, and I was 16, and it's Watermelon by Marian Keyes. And this is the book I return to all the time. I reread this book all the time. It's the original one. It's the one that I spilled pink perfume on. I don't know why the perfume was pink, but like, this is the copy that I return to. It's like one of my prized possessions. I also love that it was a used book. I've taped this book together. I love used books. And so I'm just gonna pop that right over there. Okay, what else do we got? How was your taste in books changed? I've skipped some of these. How has your taste in books changed since childhood? It hasn't. I still want to experience the magic of Charlie Bone. I still want to experience the character development that happens between Mary Lennox and her cousin, and the little girls that Sarah Crewe was spending time with in A Little Princess. Like, that's still my vibe. Let me see if I can, so I'm interested in complicated characters. I like Toni Morrison a lot. She's my favorite author. I like James Baldwin, obviously. I like Miss Tracy Dion. I love Sally Rooney. I say I like because I've only read part of one of these books. I haven't read them all yet. But I love Sally Rooney. I love N.K. Jemisin, and in the 5th season. I also love poetry. Poetry is what I spent my time studying in college, and what I feel the most, it's what I feel the most passionate about. I feel definitely the most passionate about poetry, but it's not because I don't love everything else. I'm a poet, and so that's where I go. I want to show you what else I'm interested in, but I don't want to die when I knock this over. I'm gonna do like a poetry recommendation situation, because I have a couple of fantastic things on here, but this is the only Sally Rooney I haven't read. I love Ocean Vuong. Again, complicated characters. Me knocking books over. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Ocean Vuong. This is On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous. I've got every piece of poetry he's ever written, like chapbooks, all that kind of stuff. This was amazing. His new book, The Emperor of Gladness, comes out in, I want to say, it's either April or May. He's coming to Houston in May. I'll be there. I will be there. I'm reading Mistborn right now. This is my first Sanderson. I love him. I'm also reading Nectar of the Wicked. I will put it up there so that, you can see the author's name. I'm so sorry. But I love that author. I do. I also love classics. I'm obsessed with Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights. I'm obsessed with David Copperfield. How has my taste changed? Well, it hasn't. It's exactly the same. Tell me what to read and I'll read it. Just give it here. Gosh. Should I live like this for the rest of no, I shouldn't. This is not a look, guys. I also read a lot of nonfiction. Sorry, lots of piles. I'm reading Cultish and Bibliophobia right now. I need the questions. Gosh, I did that already. What book have you wanted to return to lately? Okay. I think On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous. I wanted to return to this one because I want kind of to have Ocean Vuong in my, in here, not in a weird way, so that I'm prepared for The Emperor of Gladness. And I also really, really want to return to Slouching Towards Bethlehem by Joan Didion, because these essays, I first read them in college, or a few of them in college, and these essays changed my life. They changed my life. Those are the things that I want to return to. But first, I want to get through these guys, because I want to be like the other girls. Like, I want to be in the club. Not that club, because I don't like to go outside, but like, I want to be in this club. I want to talk about these things with the girls. That's what I want to do. Your favorite or formative YA series? YA? It's Twilight. They're all the way over there, so it's Twilight. It's Twilight. It's Twilight. I read them back to back when I was like 15. That's when I read Twilight. I don't know when everybody else read them, but I'm always late to everything, as you can see. But I love Twilight so much. Nothing like feels as sweet as reading Twilight for the first time, or nothing has felt as sweet for me as reading Twilight for the first time. You know, watching Bella be like an ordinary girl and get chosen by, you know, the you know what the Twilight situation is. I know that there's problems and it's problematic, and I can acknowledge that for sure. But as far as vibes go, that's my formative vibe. I also didn't read The Hunger Games, and so maybe I would feel differently but I'm into fantasy and romance, and when they come together, for me. I didn't mention, I also really like Emily Henry. I really like Emily Henry. She does not miss for me. She hasn't missed. I sometimes get her books confused. I confuse one for the other, but they're all good. I like them all. I'm excited for the next one. There is a next one. It's that one, whatever that is. Whatever it is that I'm pointing to now. I'm excited for that. A book you had to read in school but you loved. A Midsummer Night's Dream. I know it's like part of Shakespeare's like earlier work and everything, but I love A Midsummer Night's Dream so much. It's would I call it my favorite? I think probably Hamlet. Is my favorite. Anyway, have you guys read Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell? I haven't read it yet, but I want to know if it's good. I feel like I'd like it. I like a historic situation. But Hamlet, I think, is probably the fave. But I really, that's one I had to read in high school too, that I really, really, really loved. But I appreciated it more when I read it in college. So I would say A Midsummer Night's Dream is my first, followed closely by Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost I read I think I attempted it in high school by myself, and I liked the poetry. Like, I liked what I was experiencing, and I had like some understanding of Genesis, and so not that you need much of an understanding of Genesis, because it's taken from, like, Paradise Lost was created from, like, not a very big part of Genesis, but Paradise Lost, I still have the copy that I read in college in 2015 with one of my favorite professors, and I would say that that's another book that I just reread it last year. I really enjoyed that experience. So I would say A Midsummer Night's Dream, Hamlet, and then Paradise Lost, because I can't have just one answer to any question. It's just not gonna happen. It's just not me. It's just not me. Your weirdest favorite book? I feel like all the books I like are weird in their own way. Maybe After the Winter by Guadalupe Nettel. I think it's a weird book. After the Winter is a multi-POV love story-ish situation. It's also just like a life story. I'm gonna find the synopsis. They gave me, that movie After? They gave me that. No, I want After the Winter. Why am I saying it like that? It's about multiple people. It's about this guy named Claudio, who is Cuban, and he lives in New York City, and Cecilia, and she's Mexican, and she's doing post-grad in Paris. Their lives become intertwined, but it's about other people too. Like, I feel like Guadalupe Nettel does a really good job of making sure that the kind of like side characters and the subplot is just as impactful and meaningful to you as what's going on with the protagonists. And I really, really liked that book. And I was put onto that book by Mark Haber, who also wrote one of my favorite books. He wrote, I don't do the memory thing. Okay, my favorite books of his, and the only books I've read, have been Reinhardt's Garden and Saint Sebastian's Abyss. I really, really enjoyed both of them, but Reinhardt's Garden was weird. It was a weird book. I learned about it because at the time when it came out, Mark Haber still worked at one of my favorite bookstores. They used to do these like staff pick things. Every bookstore does staff recommendations, and that's fantastic. It's great. I love it. And their staff recommendations were done by people who I really respected and I really cared about the kind of books that they were reading, because I could go into the store and be like, I'd like to feel sad, but I'd also like to feel in love. That's actually what I told Mark, and then he handed me After the Winter. And they're just very intuitive and they just understand what it is you need, like all booksellers do. And booksellers are so special to me because of that. But he recommended After the Winter to me, and I bought Reinhardt's Garden by him because there was like a New York Times list, and Ocean Vuong's new book, which at the time was On Earth Beautifully Gorgeous. It's like, I need like a murder map. Ocean Vuong's new book that came out in 2019 was on the same list as Mark Haber's book, Reinhardt's Garden. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. And so I had to buy it, and I read it really fast, and I went back and told him, like everybody else does, I'm sure, how amazing and fun it was. And so if you're looking for a weird book, this book is really cool. It's all about melancholy, like the disease, like melancholia. It takes place in like Eastern Europe during the 20th century, and it's just weird. It's just a weird book, and I loved it. That was so long. Why am I talking so much? If your 13-year-old self could live in a fictional world, which would it be? Is it different from the world you choose now? 13-year-old me would definitely want to be living in Narnia, because I don't know if I mentioned this, but we read a lot of C.S. Lewis. Like, we read everything. We read everything. But the Chronicles of Narnia was really, really fun. I remember reading maybe the first 3 books. I don't know that I got past the first 3 books. That would be a fun thing to go back to. Also, the Magic Tree House, and because I'm crazy, I saw at my other favorite local bookstore that does used stuff, I saw this. Let me see if I can, oopsie. I don't know if you can see it, but that's the Magic Tree House, and it's a complete set. And I got these for my little humans, and I got them some other things too, some Black History Month books back there. I got Toni Morrison, and that's a cute angle. Anywho, sorry if the angle looks different. It's because it is. Yeah, we read Magic Tree House, we read Chronicles of Narnia. I don't know what question I was answering. I would live in Narnia. Narnia just felt magical to me. What was that face? Narnia just felt magical to me. It felt like a place where anything could happen and where you could like overcome anything if you had a badass lion on your side. And I was like, well, I can get a lion on my side and then I can just live in Narnia and be a princess. There's like a recurring theme here. Princesses, a little princess. Yeah, all of those things. The world I would choose now is my own. I like my world. I like books. Books were a real source of escape for me as a child. I'm sure that everybody kind of has felt that way at some point or another. Books are powerful, and they can teach you so much, and they can also teach you so much about perspective. And I think that I'm empathetic as a human because I read so many books and got to know so many different kinds of personalities. And yeah, so I think that I choose this world. but I'll take Narnia too. But I like this world better. Is there a newly released book you wish you had when you were younger? I think that I'd have to go On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous and Normal People. And the reason I say that, because I think On Earth, I don't know how to explain it. I think I need to do that one last because I know I'm just gonna go off on a tangent. But with Normal People, I had been in so many situations, like situationships, and I didn't know what to call them. I didn't know the language to form around these encounters I was having. And it was just so complicated. It was so complicated. And like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like I didn't have the context or the vocabulary to communicate through what it was I was experiencing in my relationships. And I feel like Normal People told me that really nobody else has that either. It's more just like we're all just kind of sitting there going, I think it's this, and we're hypothesizing, and we're inferring. We're not like, nobody knows the meaning of these relationships, really. Nobody knows why people feel the way that they do. Everybody has their own internal thing they're going through, and the thing that they're going through might not line up with what their partner is going through. And the confusion that took place in Normal People is, for me, like so indicative of, like, it just looks like relationships to me. The messiness of them, not the romantic versions of them that we kind of hyperfixate on as kids and hope to end up in as grown-ups or teens or whatever. And so I feel like if I was armed with Normal People, I would have a better way in to these kinds of relationships. That's just my opinion. For me, that's my opinion for me. It's not my opinion for everybody else. And then the reason I say On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous is because I'm a writer. I'm not published or anything, but I've been writing my whole life, and I went to school twice to study literature and to study poetry and language and all of the things. And I feel like, hey, Bubba, can you give me 2 more minutes and I'll come get you? 2 minutes? Thank you. Okay, go down. Yeah? Can you go downstairs? Close the door, please. Close the door. Just bring the box of Cheez-Its downstairs. Okay, thanks. Close the door. I'm sorry. My God. What I was trying to say about Ocean Vuong was that my literal day job is to write. I just don't write for myself. I just don't get paid to write for myself. Obviously, I write for myself. But when Ocean Vuong's novel came out in 2019, I'd been reading his poetry. I'd been reading it since college when he came to visit my campus. Something that I really, really was taken aback by was the fact that Ocean Vuong was a poet novelist, and he had written a poem in a novel, or a novel that broke into poems. It was an epistolary novel. If you don't know about the novel, it's an epistolary, which just means that it's in the form of a letter. And the protagonist, Little Dog, is writing this letter to his mother, but his mother can't read, can't speak English. The novel's written in English, and the mother can't read. And so there are just multiple layers of separation there. And so that makes it so that Little Dog can say everything, And if you're a writer, and even if you're a person, you might understand why you wouldn't want your mother reading your diary. And so having that removal gave him the ability Little Dog, the ability to be really, really honest about what he was feeling and the relationships he was dealing with and what he felt about, his mother and his grandmother and all of the things that collide to make him a person. But the other thing that really floored me about all of this was that he was a poet. Mommy. Okay. So it was partially that he had written this epistolary novel, and I write a lot of epistolary poetry. And the funny thing is, I think that most poetry is epistolary. Poems are just written to people. You're addressing somebody, I think, even if it's yourself. I think that poetry is inherently epistolary. I don't know. Anyways. So my excitement about it was partially that he was this poet who had written this novel. And I myself have written both fiction and poetry, but I felt like my prose was too flowery, my prose was too poetic. And so I was like, well, I can't, it's not right. Something had me convinced that, well, this just isn't right. And when that novel came out, I was like, a novel can be anything you want it to be. And so can a poem. That's the whole point. And I think that it just has a special place in my heart because it took the limits the self-imposed limits, and maybe scholastically imposed to some degree. It took those limits off of me. Yeah, and it's also just really beautiful. So, gosh, yeah. So that's that. So those are the 2 books I wish I had when I was younger. There are I wanted to add just a couple of thoughts I had, and hopefully Carrie from Carrie Can Read doesn't mind. I also pre-texted this to one of my sisters, and so the note that I took, it's just I don't know. Sometimes when I take notes, it's me writing a text to my sister or my best friend, and it's remind me later because I won't look at my notes. Okay, so the only things I want to add are who are my favorite booktubers, who got me into being obsessed with watching BookTube and really finding a home in a weird stalkery way, because I'm just kind of peering in. me finding a home in this community. And so my favorite booktubers, and I'm gonna pull them up because I don't want to miss anybody, really. I don't want to miss anybody. And so firstly, we've got Carrie Can Read, and her other channel, Carrie Cakes, which my kids, I have a couple little boys, they're 5 and 7, and they sit in the living room like when it gets towards the end of the night and they watch her travel vlogs. They watch the vlogs from her main channel, and it kind of like settles them down, and it creates like a nice little ambiance in our house, and we light candles, and it's a whole little cute situation. And sometimes we'll watch them while we read, and so like they'll look up and they'll see, ooh, it's snowing over in Korea or Japan or whatever, and then they'll look back at Dogman or whatever it is they're reading. So I really appreciate Carrie Can Read / Carrie Cakes, and also thank you for starting this book tag, because I've been looking for an opportunity to be a grown-up and like put myself out there a little bit, and I feel really excited that I get to try it in this way in my makeshift book nook. Shout out to Hurricane Barrel for destroying my house. It's under construction, so hopefully we'll be getting back in there soon. But anyway, so Carrie Can Read, Olivia Reads a Latte. I've been following her for I don't even know how long, but I just like her. I don't know, I just like her. I love the book recommendations. I love the vibe. I love the coffee. Everybody gets coffee all the time. It makes me so happy. I love coffee. And I love being around people who are around books. I just love it. I'm like an indoors kind of chill at home person, except for when I'm traveling. And this is like low stakes hangout situation. That's what YouTube feels like for me. It's like my friends on YouTube, as my little sister used to say. Booked and Busy. She is just very inspiring. I love getting cute little like makeup tips when she's doing her little thing. I love when her and Olivia Reads a Latte talk about their experience in the education system. I used to be a teacher as well. I'll talk about that at some point maybe. I taught English. I taught high school English in 2020 and 2021. So we can't talk about that here because it would take too long. But I like hearing people talk about those things. I like hearing people talk about diving into new books and what devices they're getting. I may be getting a Kobo because of Olivia Reads a Latte. I got a Kindle because of Booked and Busy. And so I like being inspired and influenced by people who I think are just genuinely good people. Emmy Reads is another great one for me. Emmy Reads I really love Emmy Reads because everything that I love her little skits that she does. She's probably the booktuber I've been following for the longest. I think her and I have a really aligned taste in literature, especially according to like just vibes, but also just her love of the classics. And I just love seeing people out there reading the classics, because I think that I love what we have now, and I love that we have those things, and I think we have what we have now because we had classics and we had like, you know, tradition to pull from and to change and to manage and to arrange. And I'm just gonna okay. And so just ignore that. And so I love Emmy Reads for everything that she's done. Also Jack Edwards and Jack in the Books, his 2 channels. He's just blown up, and I'm really like, I don't know if I can say this because I don't know him, but I'm like proud of him for being so himself, just being so unapologetically himself, and for taking BookTube or taking the internet maybe by storm. And I also like his taste in his literary fiction, especially. I feel like I'm gonna say, oh, this person has so much of my taste and that person has so much of my taste, but really, like, I read so much of everything that whether it's Carrie Cakes or Carrie Can Read, whether it's Carrie Can Read or whether it's Olivia Reads a Latte or whether it's Booked and Busy or whether it's Emmy Reads or whether it's Jack Edwards, like, I read so much that they all have an element of my taste. I also wanted to say, gosh, shout out to Olivia Reads a Latte for influencing me. I'm loving Meet Your Baker. It's so cute. This is gonna be really annoying to edit. Kat's Field Notes. I love her. She reads both nonfiction, she reads literary fiction. I feel like those are mostly what I see her reading. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And I love her recommendations. I love her just chats about the different kinds of books, or like why she's interested in reading a particular book, her little TBR videos and things like that. I love all of that. Who else? Anna Wallace. She reads a lot. I really just love her. I think she's so cool. Benjamin McAvoy, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I read War and Peace because of you. I read it. I had started it with my dad. I read War and Peace because of Benjamin McAvoy. And I read other classics, but War and Peace was just one I was not dying to get into because it was so big. And I read it and I fell in love with it. And all I can think about is Prince Andre and Nikolai and Princess Myra and what's going on there. So thanks. Like I'm saying thank you. Haley Pham is also really, really fun. And I'll link all of these channels below. I just feel the need to say something. But Haley Pham, really, really enjoy her content. She does a lot of fun little quirky videos. I just watched her most recent, I think it's her most recent one. She read everything pink for a while. She's writing her own book right now, and I think that's really, really cool. And so she's exploring book covers and things like that, which I think is funny and awesome, and what you should do. And then the last couple. So Katie is reading, also one of the first ones I started getting into. I got into her, and that's where I first started hearing about Brandon Sanderson and the Cosmere and all of that. And now I'm reading my first Brandon Sanderson because I've been influenced by, her, Olivia Reads a Latte, Booked and Busy, by many, many, many people. But I just feel really grateful to all of them, which is why I took the time to just say who each of them were. But let me move on before I waste all of the time, because I am 56 minutes in. Holy shit. Okay, what's my most reread book as a kid? The book I reread the most is The Secret Garden. Maybe I didn't even need to have that in there because I talked about it so much. And then who are my comfort insta-buy authors? Okay, comfort? Who are my insta-buy authors? Let's not do comfort because I can't do that. But I'm a mood reader, so my insta-buy authors are Ocean Vuong. I buy a lot of Marian Keyes. Is she even still releasing books? I know that she released one 2 years ago. My other insta-buy, Emily Henry, I buy all of her things. On some format. Joseph Earl Thomas, he's an insta-buy for me. Brandon Sanderson is now an insta-buy for me, even though I haven't read everything. I'm just gimme. Rebecca Yarros and Cassandra Clare are insta-buys for me now. I haven't read them. I know these are what is this? This is a third book and a second book. Pay no attention to that. I wanted this one because of how pretty it was. And I didn't want them to run out, and I don't know if that's a thing. And I wanted this one because it was pretty as well. And I'm gonna buy the first books, but only when I finish Legendborn. That's my thing. Tracy Dion, insta-buy. N.K. Jameson, insta-buy. Sally Rooney, did I say Sally Rooney? Sally Rooney is an insta-buy. The only book I haven't read of hers so far is Intermezzo. Oh, I'm covering the whole thing. You know what it is. The other insta-buy for me, and it's a non-fic. I really love this guy's translations of Fernando Pessoa, who I'm kind of obsessed with. So Richard Zenith is an insta-buy author for me. Hong Kong. Hong Kong is an insta-buy author for me. I'm looking around because, again, I'm not in my normal space, and so I'm just kind of where are the books? And the books are everywhere. But yeah, so I think those are, and George R.R. Martin. I've read the first 3 Game of Thrones books, and I'm having a time. It's good. It's fun. I could never watch the show because I'm not a gore person. Who am I? Yep, that's it. Okay, well, thanks so much. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to making this a regular thing. So I will see you next time. I'm just gonna hold up some books casual, just